The TV is on in the background, with the news blaring. The latest reports in a series of murders that have stricken our town. It started just over a month ago when the first body was found in his living room. His name was John Duncan, a car salesman with a good reputation for being honest. People initially thought it was suicide. His body was found on his couch with both wrists slit and a knife next to him. The only odd thing about the scene were the words useless, worthless and nobody written in his blood on the wall he was facing. The feeling at the time was he wrote them himself before passing out and bleeding to death. Friends and colleagues, though, all claimed he seemed to be happy and none of them seemed to see it coming. 3 days later, another body was found in their bedroom. Her name was Sarah Redfern. She was a supervisor at the town's post office. This time above her bed, the words "good for nothing" in an arch written in her blood. She lay peacefully in the middle of a bed, wrists cut with 2 pools of crimson staining the white sheets and a discarded kitchen knife a few feet away. Suicide was the logical approach. There appeared to be no struggle, and the investigation showed no unexpected fingerprints or signs of forced entry in or out. And there appeared to be no connection to the first incident. The best explanation at the time was a copycat suicide. 3 more days though, and another body is discovered. His name was Richard Blitzen. He worked in banking, having one of those convoluted job titles that left you with no idea what it was he actually got paid for. This suicide was the first to make the news, as unfortunately it was Richard's 4-year-old son who discovered the body when his ex-wife was dropping him off for the weekend. He was sat in his armchair, arms dangling to each side, pools of red fully formed on the wooden floor. He was looking at a wall on which all pictures had been carefully removed and stacked on the coffee table, neatly and replaced with the words ugly, boring and untalented. Again, all in his blood, a knife slammed into the wall beneath them. The police again couldn't find any evidence of foul play, but the ex-wife was adamant. He would never end his own life despite the evidence. Following true to form, another 3 days and another body. Ryan Wilson this time was his name. He inherited money from his father some years earlier and had been living off the interest ever since. He was known to the town as a bit of a rich playboy. Everyone had heard a story of a run-in with him. In essence, if he was nice to you, he wanted something from you. He was found in a penthouse apartment, sat on his couch, in what appeared to be a comfortable position. The leather couch was stained red, turned towards a wall with the words poor, dirty, and miserable. The police treated it suspiciously. All signs pointed to being suicide, but it was too close a match to the other victims, and the words didn't make any sense. This person was quite wealthy. The place was immaculate apart from the couch, and anyone who knew him would tell you he couldn't be happier. But also there was a pattern emerging. With the times the deaths were being found 3 days apart. In all cases, everything seemed too tidy to the police. 6 days passed when the 5th and 6th bodies were discovered. The 5th was a homeless man by the name of Joe Young, who lay undiscovered for 3 days. The only difference was a glass bottle was used to cut his arms. The words hopeless, desperate, and pointless appeared on the wall across the alleyway from where his body was discovered. They were nearly missed on the brick wall, as exposure to the elements had almost washed away the evidence. The sixth body was found almost at the same time. James Watson was his name. Unemployed, living on benefits, he spent his days making a nuisance of himself to the local second-hand shop. His father found him in his bedroom, the words, "She asked for help," painted on the wall in his blood. He was propped up at the side of the bed, wrists slit the same as the previous victims. The police were certain now it was a murder investigation, but they had no leads to follow, and all the bodies had shown no signs of a struggle, forced entry, and there was still no apparent link between any of the victims. 2 days later, the police issued a warning all over the news channels that all 6 deaths appeared to be murders, and that everyone should check on their loved ones as often as possible, and if possible, to not be alone, as the perpetrator is still at large. This was of course followed by the usual, "Any information, please contact this number," and if you discover another victim, please do not disturb the body. The following day, just like clockwork, the 7th body was discovered. This one, though, was somewhat different, as it was found during a party. During the early hours of the morning, the partygoers discovered the bathroom door was locked. After almost an hour of waiting, though, of knocking and no response, several partygoers got worried. One of them opened the lock from the outside with a screwdriver to reveal the 7th victim. Kelly Newport was her name, a cashier at the local supermarket. The partygoers called the police immediately. The right wrist was cut, but not the left. Blood sprayed all over the bathroom wall, but the words were still clear on the mirror. "She trusted you." The police grilled all of the partygoers, as this was the first body discovered that had had company. All of them were convinced everyone was present and accounted for there were only 12 of them in total, including the deceased. Not hard to keep track of everybody. The bathroom door was confirmed to be locked by all of them, but it was possible that it could be unlocked from the outside with a screwdriver. Unfortunately, due to the opening method, it was impossible to tell if this was the case. Everyone gave the exact same account of the events, and eventually the police decided all the partygoers had no links to the previous victims, so had to release everyone. The 8th victim was a night security guard in a museum by the name of Joel Burke. He was found when the staff opened up the following morning. Found in the security office with both of his wrists again slit. It looked as if he had died in the chair, but gravity, lending a hand, helped him to the floor, where he lay in a pool of his own bodily fluids. The words, "You didn't stop them," written in his blood. The security footage had been shut off and the hard drive removed, meaning there was no local footage of the death, and no helpful footage was found from other buildings nearby. 3 more days and the 9th victim was found. Anne Tanner, mother of 2 and bar staff at a local pub. She was found in her garage, in the front seat of her car, door wide open. Her husband found her when he woke up around 7 a.m. She was working the night shift and got out about 2 a.m. He apparently heard the garage door open and close, but she never came to bed, which wasn't unusual, as sometimes she stayed up to calm down after a bad shift. When he discovered her, he called the police immediately. They discovered the message on the windscreen, "Fake friend." It was clear that the murders were all personal, but the connection between the victims was still unclear, and the motive still a complete mystery. The media was whipping the town into a complete frenzy, making it sound like no one was safe. And, as you can imagine, the police were a complete loss. It was the 10th body that gave the police a clue to the connection to all the victims. Philip Gruber, a portly man who got through life betting on anything that moved. Family and friends had all cut ties with him because of his knack for stealing their money to support his habit. Not too surprisingly, the body was discovered by a collection agent who had been employed to retrieve a loan debt. Looking through the window, he had seen Philip leaning to one side on his sofa. After several knocks and shouts to try and get his attention, he hadn't moved an inch or acknowledged the noise. So the agent called the police. After again attempting to get some reaction out of Philip, the police decided to force entry. Upon entering, they discovered both wrists were cut, and he was looking towards the words, "You spilt her secrets," on his coffee table, atop a collection of magazines and newspapers, the kind of arrangement a hoarder would be so proud of. On the very top, though, lay a school yearbook, left open. The page was filled with a photo of an entire class. 10 people had been crossed out and 1 circled. On further investigation, they discovered that all 10 crossed out pupils matched their victims. There was their link. The reason for the murders and how they were all committed was still very unclear, but they at least had a link, a lead. The police started looking for everyone left in the picture, especially the circled girl. And that's what brought them to my door, 2 days after Philip's death. You see, I was in the picture. I had graduated that class 10 years ago with all the other students. They inquired about the circled girl, as they had had no luck in locating her. All they knew was that her name was Jane Kind, and they needed to find her as she was singled out on this picture. I had to explain they're not going to find Jane, as she committed suicide 3 days after that picture was taken. She took her life because the children bullied her. They, of course, asked other questions about who the bullies were, and I confirmed that the main culprits were among the dead, but it was a long time ago. After them asking me every question they could imagine regarding the deaths, and me only basically repeating what was common knowledge from the news and being what I had assumed was very little help to their investigation, they finally asked if I was in contact with any of the other survivors. I told them about a couple I knew who had left town, but I'd lost contact with them a few years ago. But that was also the case with the majority of the class. I just lost contact with them. But I believed one person worked in the butcher's a few streets over. After thanking me for my time, they left me with some numbers to call if I could remember anything that may help with the investigation, and told me to be vigilant, as anyone in that photo could be the next victim. The 11th body was found the following day. The news reporter was busy telling the tale of Jennifer Andrews, a stay-at-home mum to a single child. She was found by her husband, and same as the previous 10 victims, the police had released some details. They so far confirmed that the victim was also in the picture and was found in a similar pose to the previous victims. But I don't need to listen to the news and how they didn't report the words on her wall. I know what it said. You tortured her. I know this because I have Jane's diary. I know the sins of the bullies and what they did to that poor girl. I have had the last 10 years to study, watch, plan. The news report concluded with, "When will this all end?" Well, there is only one more name in this diary. Only one more name that caused Jane pain. That caused Jane to end her life. So, just 3 more days. Well, What an ending. Special thanks for this go to Colin Wood. What a wonderful story from a wonderful mind. If you like this story, please do hit that like button. Maybe even subscribe. And until we meet again, I am the Wanderer. Do take care now, won't you?